Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like two old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line. We welcome you to hour number 2 on a Football Friday. He is Joe Ranieri. I am Ben Stevens. We get you set for everything that you need over these next 2 hours leading into week number 18 and the regular season finale around the National Football League, which starts tomorrow on a Saturday with 2 games that will decide the AFC North Division, who might be the 5 seed in the AFC playoff picture, and potentially that last and final wild card spot around the conference. But we'll get you set for every game. Our 2 tomorrow and our 14 on Sunday that will determine the end of the regular season, the playoff picture in the National Football League, and also who's going to have the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft come late April. Joe, basically every game has some significance to the overall picture of the NFL, both in the postseason and beyond around the league.
Yeah, it's week 18. A lot of duds, though, Ben, but a lot, ironically enough, still to be determined here in the NFL. And I guess this is what they wanted, right? They still wanted meaningful football in week 18. Well, we barely got it, but we got some of it.
Listen, in a lot of the matchups, we have at least one team that has some motivation or a mentality or needs something to happen to earn a playoff spot or maybe earn a better draft position. We'll talk all about that. Our first game of Week 18, the final weekend in the regular season, is in Baltimore tomorrow afternoon, set for a 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time kick in the Charm City. The Ravens and the Browns in a divisional duel. If Baltimore wins, as you can see, they will claim the AFC North. It is a 19.5-point spread against the Cleveland Browns, who are starting not Jameis Winston, not Dorian Thompson-Robinson, but as of the latest reports, Bailey Zappi is going to get his first start in Cleveland. Total is 41 and a hook. This is one of the largest spreads we have seen in an NFL game in a very long time. So let me ask you, Joe, a quick 2-part question, if you'll allow it. Number 1, just to get it out of the way, is there any chance that Baltimore loses this game outright? And then number 2, how can the Ravens, if at all, cover this number?
It's an outrageous number, Ben. I mean, we're almost up to 20 points. The only justification to have a line this big here, Ben, would be because the defense that the Ravens are playing is so terrible that they can't help but score points. But that's not the case with Cleveland. Cleveland's defense was good enough to beat them the first go-around, and the defense is certainly decent. I mean, their last 4 games, the total points, Ben, 41, 38, 30, and 23. This is not a defense that's rolling over by any stretch of the imagination here. And listen, Baltimore, all they need to do, and Harbaugh knows this, is win the game and move on. So the idea that they're going to keep their foot on the gas in this one when the game might be out of reach, I'm not buying it here at all. It's gotten to the point where now I got to take Cleveland. As terrible as that is, it's strictly a numbers game, Ben. There is no way I can't take the points here with a Cleveland team who defensively, you don't think they know what the spread is here, Ben? You think that defense is going to take kindly to thinking that, you're going to blow us out here, that the spread is almost 20? I think Cleveland here, I don't think they win it, but I also don't think the Ravens, it's do or die that the Ravens cover this spread. I think they just want the win. I think they'll get it, but I don't think they're going to get it by more than 19.5 points.
Where this line stands right now, it would be the largest spread in favor of an NFL team in an NFL regular season game since 2021. Again, because of some of the uncertainty, at least on the beautiful sports book that sponsors our show, that being FanDuel, there's no props out for this game as of this moment. There's not even a first half line, which I think, Joe, would be a very logical thought of how to approach this game. The Flock come out. They beat the Browns early in the opening 2 quarters. Maybe then they rest Lamar Jackson midway through the 3rd quarter, whatever it might be. That line, what would you think? First half line in some other spots, probably 13.5, right? It's not just like an even split of 19 and a hook. I don't think it would be like 10.5, but even so, probably at least double digits, right?
It was 9.5, Ben. So as of, I believe, Tuesday, but now it's closer to 11.5, even 12.5.
Yeah, I think it would be at least double digits. It's not a bad way to look. And again, Baltimore needs this game. A win, and it's the AFC North Championship for the Ravens in a home game. Who will that be against? Now let's get to Sunday. Joe, the Kansas City Chiefs have already locked up the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. They're good. Andy Reid has told us he is playing the reserves for KC. That means Carson Wentz is starting and a lot of the other backups on both sides of the football. However, for Denver in Mile High, in their regular season finale, the Broncos are playing everybody because with a victory, Denver in year 2 under Sean Payton with a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix earns that final playoff berth in the AFC. And this line has ballooned. It opened north of a touchdown. Now it's north of double digits. 10.5-point spread in favor of Denver. Joe, same kind of question I asked you about the Baltimore-Cleveland game. Step number 1, does Denver win outright? Step number 2, will the Broncos cover? Now is a double-digit favorite.
So we saw a similar situation 4 years ago, Ben. Kansas City had locked up the number 1 seed in the AFC West, and it hosted, I believe, Vegas, the Raiders there to end the season. Mahomes and everyone else did not play in that game, and the Raiders ended up winning 38-21. So a similar scenario is shaping up here in this game. The difference is the Raiders, well, we know they were eliminated in that game 4 years ago. Denver has to win in order to reach the playoffs, like you said. So this is a team that will lay it all out there because they realize there is no tomorrow. They still control their destiny. So they will have an opportunity here to lay it all out, make sure this game's over quicker than later, right? That's what they want to do. They certainly have the ability to be able to do that against the backups. But again, Ben, you're asking even the backups of the Chiefs to roll over here at 10.5. They just need to win. There's no style points.
There's not, right? And if the Broncos are up 24-10 in the 4th quarter, and they are very comfortable, or 27-10 even, right? Because we're talking a 3-score game becomes a 2-score rather quickly, and that additional hook on the double digit is a big, big thing. It's not just Carson Wentz in favor of Patrick Mahomes, right? It's the starting offensive line not playing, the starting defensive line. Everybody for the Chiefs are going to be a reserve. But are they 10.5 points worse than the Broncos? There's something in me, Joe. If I had to bet the game, I'm not going to. Don't love a game where one team is supremely motivated and the other is already looking forward to their opening divisional round game back inside Arrowhead, where the Chiefs once again will have home field advantage throughout the AFC postseason. If I had to bet it, I'd probably take 10.5 with Carson Wentz and KC and hope for a little bit of luster out of a guy that should have won an NFL MVP award now about a decade ago in the NFL. Joe, we'll get more into this game on the other side. But again, the Broncos win. That's it. They earn the final spot in the AFC postseason. They'll be the 7th seed in the AFC playoff picture. If the Broncos lose, it opens the door for the Bengals, who play tomorrow night. Yep. But most importantly, for the Miami Dolphins, who if Denver loses and the Dolphins win, it's not Joe Burrow and the Bengals, it's Miami and whoever is playing quarterback into the AFC postseason. The Dolphins, a slight road favorite in MetLife. Might it also be the final NFL game for Aaron Rodgers? Ooh, the stakes. Next. Basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like 2 old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
All of the stakes for every single matchup in the regular season finale weekend around the NFL. It is week number 18. So again, Denver in pole position to be the final playoff team into the AFC, that number 7 seed, the last and final in the postseason picture in that conference as a double-digit favorite, now laying 10.5 at home against the Chiefs backups. Denver just needs a win. They are in to the AFC playoff picture. If for whatever reason Carson Wentz and Kansas City can play spoiler, it opens the door for the Dolphins and the Bengals. But Miami, first and foremost, with a victory and a Broncos loss, the Dolphins would be the 7th seed in the AFC playoff picture. But as of this moment, Joe, it ain't going to be easy for the Fins. Reports say it is doubtful that Tua Tagovailoa is going to play for Miami, which would mean Tyler Huntley once again in MetLife in East Rutherford against a Jets team that for the 7th time in the last 14 years they have missed the postseason are going to finish with 5 wins or less in a regular season. Just dreadful football for Gang Green. Might it be the final game that Aaron Rodgers plays in a Jets uniform? Might it be the final game that Aaron Rodgers plays in his National Football League career? The Dolphins, an ever so slight favorite in MetLife. Will Miami at least win the football game to maybe give themselves a chance playing at the same time as the Broncos and the Chiefs?
Listen, it's clear one of these teams has mailed it in, and pretty much the players are saying so. And another team has won, 6 of their last 8 games to even have a shot to be alive in Week 18. It's clear the Dolphins have been playing better football and more motivated football. And listen, Snoop Huntley last week, Ben, he had 115 and a half passer rating. He ran for 52 yards and a touchdown, and he did exactly what they were supposed to do, beat the Cleveland Browns in less than ideal conditions. So I've got no problem thinking he's going to go ahead and beat a dysfunctional New York Jets team that has quite honestly mailed it in, and the players are saying so. So the Dolphins have also owned this series. They've won 4 straight, 12 of the last 14. It will be not the ideal weather in your neck of the woods there, Ben, on Sunday, but the Jets team that's lost 6 of 7 was completely, quit last week in Buffalo. No reason for us to think that Miami and Snoop Huntley can't go into MetLife and win this game.
Absolutely so. If it's Tua Tagovailoa, great. Get the number right now. He has not been ruled out yet, although it does not seem likely that he plays in this game for Miami. If it's Tyler Huntley, good with that too. 22 of 26, 225 and a touchdown against the Browns. Was Miami's leading rusher with 52 yards on the ground and a score as well. I believe this would be start number 4 of the year for Snoop Huntley with Miami and Mike McDaniel. Took you long enough, but maybe they finally understood how to organize an offensive scheme for Snoop. And Joe, as we know, as long as Miami stays with a minus in front of its name and price to win the football game outright under Mike McDaniel, they're pretty darn good at doing that. As a favorite, since McDaniel took over in South Florida in 2022, the Dolphins, when expected to win a game, often do. 23-7 straight up. All they would need here, all the odds are really anticipating. Here are the playoff prices for the 3 teams still alive in that wild card chase in the AFC. Again, Denver, 10.5-point favorite. Minus 650 to see the postseason and to be that 7 seed. The Dolphins plus 680. The Bengals would need both a Broncos and a Dolphins loss to even have a chance, but they will set the table in Saturday night's doubleheader. So since he will not know its playoff outlook, they will be the first of 3 to go, which is important, of course, for the motivation aspect. Now we go to the NFC, and specifically the NFC South. The only division still at stake in that conference entering this regular, actually not, NFC North, game 272. My apologies. But still, a big-time weekend in the NFC South. Pretty simple for the Buccaneers, Joe. The Saints have already been eliminated. They have not looked great the last 2 weeks with Spencer Rattler under center. The Buccaneers, as a 2-touchdown favorite at home, need a win. And with a win, the Bucs win the NFC South. In one additional wrinkle, because the Bucs need to win the game just to earn a playoff spot and a division, that could be really big for the playoff picture as a whole. Because again, the Buccaneers win, they claim the NFC South. The Buccaneers win, and the Rams lose to the Seahawks at home on Sunday. LA would fall to the 4 seed. Tampa would be the 3 seed. So Joe, again, with these big spreads, having one side that needs it, the other side that is already thinking about 2025. Will the Bucs win outright first? Can Tampa cover as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite at home second?
Yes, absolutely. They can cover this, and they have covered this. I mean, over the last 3 games, they're averaging a little over 7 yards of play, Ben, and with a division title at stake, there's not going to be any taking the foot off the gas here by Baker Mayfield and company. Plus, they're facing a Saints team that has managed to score 10 total points in the last 2 games here. They put up 51 in the first game. They intercepted Spencer Rattler twice. Todd Bowles in that defense, what do you think they're second crack at him? What do you think they're going to do in this one, Ben? They will leave nothing a chance in this one. Expect them to keep their foot on the gas.
With Darren Rizzi, the Saints have been competitive until the final 2 weeks where they just have their limitations, as we have seen. With Spencer Rattler in the second half against the Commanders, of course, that game was decided by just a single point. There is the team motivation, then there is the individual. Mike Evans is in his 11th career season in the National Football League. Every year with the Buccaneers. He is 85 yards shy of his 11th consecutive season, all 11 years in the National Football League with 1,000 receiving yards. The Bucs need it, and Mike Evans needs it. And let me tell you, Baker Mayfield and that offense, they know it as well. What else is at stake in the NFC? Next. There's a lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you gotta love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, this is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out, just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
So, the NFC South in that divisional championship at stake on Sunday. The Buccaneers now in pole position after Atlanta's overtime loss in the nation's capital or outside the nation's capital to end out Week 17's Sunday slate to the Commanders. The Buccaneers are a 13.5-point favorite against the Saints. As Joe said right before the break, Todd Bowles in Tampa laying it all out there. If the Bucs win, that's it. They claim the NFC South for a 4th consecutive year. But at the same time, the Falcons will be holding on hope in a home game in the A against the Carolina Panthers. If for some reason the Buccaneers get beat as a 2-touchdown home favorite, Atlanta just needs a victory over the Panthers to claim the NFC South. And Joe, with these games going off simultaneously, a lot of scoreboard watching, but a lot of motivation at least to begin. What's your approach to the Falcons and the Panthers in Atlanta on Sunday?
Yeah, so this would be an interesting one. A game in which, Ben, I automatically bet the over early in the week because, let's face it, here, neither defense even remotely close to being competitive, I think, at this point. And both offenses really starting to click here. And fast track and in divisional matchup, and we've talked about it now all year long. We talked Mike Blewitt and I even on Sundays for in-game live. This division, you'd be crazy sweating out unders when these teams play one another. All year long, every one of these divisional affairs in the NFC South have been absolute shootouts, Ben. I don't see how we ain't getting one here, too. It just feels like this is a game that's going to land well into the 50s, not the 40s, and I'm okay with that. I am absolutely looking at the over in this one.
Joe, for the Dirty Birds, a team that played to the over last week against the Commanders, it was the final touchdown in regulation from Michael Penix Jr. to Kyle Pitts that pushed us to an over, and then in OT. Atlanta's only played 6 games to the over this year. They've actually been a pretty stout under team for most of this season. But 4 of those 6 overs in the 5 divisional games Atlanta has played this season, including their first matchup against Carolina. Again, unlikely for the Falcons. They will win the NFC South, and thus the year will be considered a disaster or at least a failure. But Michael Penix Jr. seems to be the quarterback of the future. They'll figure out what happens with Kirk Cousins later. I got a feeling the Panthers make that game a little bit pesky. Like, you'll look up in the third quarter, and the game will be within at least a single possession. Now let's get to the rest of the NFC and seeds at stake around the wild card spots. Both the Commanders and the Packers have clinched a playoff berth. But here is what is on the line. If Washington wins, they're the 6th seed. Green Bay, even with a victory over Chicago, would be the 7th seed. If the Commanders lose in Dallas against the Cowboys, then Green Bay with a victory could be the 6th seed. That is important because the 7th seed would have to go immediately to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles, something Washington knows well, although they did pull off the upset just a couple, or no, that game was in Landover, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of things happening right now in the NFL, but they know how difficult that game would be. So Washington wants a game in Dallas on Sunday afternoon. Joe, I feel good about this one. Line early in the week was a flat field goal. I said, what? The Commanders need this game. They don't want to head to Philadelphia to start a playoff run. I bet the Commanders laying 3. It's now 6.5. How much does Washington win this game by at the Star on Sunday?
Yeah, probably as much as they want to, Ben, at this point. I could absolutely see the Commanders, and let's face it, their head coach now, Ben, was the former DC in Dallas, and there is absolutely no way that he wants to lose in front of his former boss there. I cannot see that. I think he'll have the defense ready to make life miserable for Dallas. There are an awful lot of incentive-based opportunities for players in this game that we should keep an eye on, mostly on the Washington side there, with Austin Eckler comes to mind, Dante Fowler comes to mind. There's a few guys that need big games for big paychecks here, Ben. I would look at Washington all day long in this one.
We'll have a pick from the Packers and the Bears later on in our pick 6, but just to show you the number, Green Bay a double-digit favorite at home in Lambeau against a team that has lost double-digit games consecutively. That's Chicago, 10 straight losses. Mike Blewitt on a Football Friday. Say less next. A lot of bowl games. I love all of them. Even if you don't like bowl games, you got to love the Pop-Tarts Bowl and what it means for college football.
Who doesn't get excited for Pop-Tarts? But also, This is one of those where, Ben, I guess you could put your kids through college. Miami doesn't care about bowl games. They don't ever win those. Miami's a favorite. They usually go take the Iowa State Cyclones. Miami doesn't play any defense whatsoever, so you automatically just bang the total.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
How do you find some of this great talent that you've brought in, who are still early in their career, might not have a ton of tape on them yet?
I've been around this business, man, for almost 20 years. So a lot of these guys will tell you that I popped into a lot of gyms, sparred or just worked on the side or, kind of worked out and just watching. I've always loved this sport, man. I think it's the greatest. And we want to continue to put on the next up-and-coming superstars. We know we got them.
Only on SportsGrid.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Live right here on the early line on SportsGrid. It is a football Friday to set the stage for week number 18 around the National Football League, the regular season finale weekend, which means on a football Friday, Mike Blewitt is here in understanding of the stakes and what is on the line for each and every individual matchup all weekend long. Our doubleheader tomorrow on a Saturday. 14 games on Sunday. Big Blue, locked and loaded for a huge regular season finale weekend around the NFL.
Absolutely. Huge games, obviously, on the docket. We'll kick it off with the Sunday nighter, I'm sure. But we also have some of those other games that you guys were just previewing that are a little difficult to discern because of the amount of players that are out.
Yeah, it is difficult, Blewitt, from a motivation perspective, almost like bowl season. But before we even get to that, hey, Happy New Year, Mike Blewitt. Thank you for being here with us to kick off 2025. This is the last official day I have heard that you can wish somebody a Happy New Year on January 3rd. All right, let's get set for this weekend, Blue. We'll get to game 272 in the Motor City in just a little bit. But with all the stakes, in full transparency, Germanary and I ran just a little bit behind. So let's go out to the NFC playoff picture outside of the 1 seed. We talked about the NFC South. The Buccaneers, with a victory as a 2-touchdown favorite, claim the division against the Saints. But because the Bucs need to win just to get into the playoffs and win the division, it's all hands on deck for Tampa. So with a win, the NFC South, and with a win, the Bucs might be in prime position to be the 3 seed in the NFC because the Rams don't need to win. And as we have heard, Blue, from Sean McVay, who often, if his starters don't need to play, he doesn't send them out there. The starters will not play for the Rams on Sunday as LA hosts Seattle. 6.5-point spread now in favor of the Seahawks. That is important for the NFC playoff position. Will Seattle cruise to a victory in Los Angeles with mostly Rams reserves in the game?
Yeah, I haven't seen Jimmy G in a minute. You'll get a chance this Sunday. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about player incentives. I heard you guys discussing it earlier, and Geno Smith has a couple of big ones as well. What gets really funky about these games is that I could see Seattle jumping out to a lead, right? In fact, you probably take a look at some Seattle first half overs, but the second halves of the games where there's just no motivation could be a total mess. That's what makes it very difficult to bet on these games. So I think you try to find different angles. So give me Seattle first half in a game like this, because I think they can come out playing for some pride. It would be unique for them to miss the playoffs with 10 wins, and that's what they're lining up to do, already eliminated, but likely to win this game. Sean McVay will coach to his dying breath, but there's only so much you can do, to your point, Ben, when a lot of reserves are in. The expansion of practice squads, too, in the NFL since COVID allows for a greater shift in starters to be moved to a weekly rest period and bringing guys in off the practice squad. So there's a little bit more flexibility there than there used to be, and we're seeing it at play this week.
It's interesting, Blewitt, because Geno Smith has got a couple of very expensive incentives coming his way this game. He needs 186 passing yards for another $2 million incentive. And if he finishes over 69.75% his season completions, he gets another $2 million. So he needs to be very efficient. Does he get over the 106 yards? Are we betting Geno Smith props, knowing that, well, he knows he's got $4 million out on the table?
Yeah, I would be in on the Geno Smith props. I think there's a lot of content being put out there this week about you should bet on every player that has incentives, and not everyone lines up with the game script. I think Seattle's going to come out and play hard. It's a first-year head coach. He wants to get to the 10-win mark. So I think for them it makes sense. For somebody like J.K. Dobbins that has a big incentive, it makes sense. For Mike Evans, who's going to be a big part of the game plan already in a Bucs team that's going to try to put up 50, that makes a lot of sense. Some of the other ones, Von Miller to get a sack, I don't know. There's a lot of randomness when it comes to it. I think you bet on those players that are big parts of the game plans, that are motivated to play hard and or win.
Yeah. From a spread perspective, Blewitt, one of my favorite handicapping games of the weekend will be something we could see change in about 24 hours. The Chargers and the Raiders in Las Vegas, depending on the results of Saturday. If the Ravens beat the Browns, they're nearly a 20-point favorite. Baltimore wins the AFC North. Why am I mentioning that? Because then we go to Saturday night in the Steel City. The Steelers might not be able to win the division, but Pittsburgh is going to want to win against the Bengals to claim the 5 seed and head to Houston and not their divisional mates in Baltimore. If Pittsburgh beats Cincy, the Bengals also need the game to keep their playoff hopes alive, then the Chargers are kind of stuck. They're just going to be the 6th seed. Currently, LA is a 4.5-point favorite against a Raiders team that has nothing to play for. Las Vegas, after winning 2 straight, can't even have the number 1 overall pick anymore. They've been eliminated from first overall pick contention as well. Blewitt, if the Chargers need this game, I think this line balloons up to past a touchdown if they can be the 5 seed. You want to go to Houston. You don't want to go to the Charm City to take on the Ravens. If the Chargers don't need this game because Pittsburgh wins tomorrow night, then the Raiders could end up as a home favorite. How do you approach betting this game right here, right now?
I think it's fair for you to call out that there is value to be had right now based on not knowing the results. However, this game really can change dramatically. I was just talking about the Dobbins incentive. Well, Dobbins probably doesn't play if the Steelers win and the Chargers are locked in. And by the way, any coach that tells you they don't really care who they play in the first round, lie. Nobody wants to go to Baltimore and play Lamar in that first week. Not the Steelers, not the Chargers. Nobody wants to do that. So teams are supremely motivated on seeding, particularly in the AFC this year. And Ben, I would honestly right now, I think this is a stay away game. There's too much riding on tomorrow night's result for me to go all in on the Chargers to try to capture value right now. It can change too dramatically, and Herbert and Dobbins and others wouldn't play.
So, can't think of Harbaugh. I just don't see Harbaugh as a guy that would just lay down and let the Raiders win, a 3rd straight game here, Mike? I mean, where did they drop in the draft if the Raiders win? I get it, Pierce. You're coaching for your future here and your job, but my goodness, I don't see Harbaugh laying down for anybody. Do you?
That's a fair point, Joe. But in that instance, then let's take an under, because then you know the Chargers are going to play defense. The Raiders are challenged to score points against anybody. The 25 points they put up against the Saints, come on. The Saints are a 0 right now. They're one of the worst teams in the league at the moment. So I think you're playing for an under then, and at 40 and a half, that makes a lot of sense to me. 20-17, something like that keeps you under.
Yep.
Yeah, it is a good look as well for a Chargers team that has played a lot of overs recently, but might get back to true Harbaugh football. Blewitt in the final minute of this segment before we go elsewhere around Week 18. Of course, it all ends in Detroit. Game 272 between the Lions and the Vikings. You know the stakes. Everybody knows the stakes. We know the stakes. What do you make of the bets for this game? The Lions a 2.5-point favorite. The total astronomically high at 56 and a hook.
Yeah, a huge total, 31-29, a 31-point first half the last time they played. So a lot of points to be had. I think the first half total of 27.5 is very interesting to me. But do we really think on the last game of the season and a Vikings defense that has stepped up pretty consistently throughout the year is going to allow this to be a 60-point total? I have a lot of internal debate about it. It's just that the first half total of 27.5. Both teams are so good the first half. I like it.
I think that's a very good look. We'll continue to go around Week 18 next. Basically predicted this, saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet.
Hot take. By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. What is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing? And we sound like two old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. When you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on this Football Friday on the early line on SportsGrid. Game 272, the regular season finale in the truest form on Sunday night in Detroit. Again, the Lions, 2.5-point favorite. Total stands at 56 and a hook. Blewitt, you know the stakes. We know the stakes. Everybody does by now, but just a reminder. Winner of this game claims the NFC North and the number 1 overall seed in the conference. The loser also in to the postseason, but would have to go on the road in the opening round as the 5 seed, the top wild card spot in that conference playoff picture. And Blewitt, there has been some debate who that impacts more. The Lions on the road throughout the postseason, or trying to go somewhere the Lions have never been, a Super Bowl with home field advantage through the Motor City. Could the Vikings, as a road team, truly be a conference contender in the NFC. So as we look at the outlook for both Detroit and Minnesota, what do you make of these prices for the future, the postseason and beyond for the Lions and Vikings entering Week 18?
I think it's indicative of something we've talked about consistently on these Friday shows, and Joe and I talk about on Sundays on In Game Live. There's still a bias against the Vikings, and I think it's because of Sam Darnold. I don't think people are paying attention to how good they've been, the style in which they win games, and it's right there in front of you. This also doesn't take into account that I think the Lions are awesome, and they're probably the most fun team to watch offensively, and they have 12 players on defense that have hit IR. They might get Anzalone back on Sunday night. That's a might, not definitely. And it's not taking into account all of these injuries that factor into teams not being able to make Super Bowl runs. When the Chiefs got into the Super Bowl against the Bucs, people ignored the offensive line injuries, and it impacted the game significantly. Last year, when the Niners lost the Super Bowl to the Chiefs, they had lost multiple defensive players health-wise throughout the end of the season and into the playoffs. You have to factor it in when you're talking about teams' chances to win the Super Bowl. For Detroit fans, I hope you finally win one. And to Vikings fans, your history in the playoffs and in the Super Bowl is far worse than even the Lions is. So I'm praying for you as well. But right now, I think the Vikings are a better team to make a Super Bowl run than the Lions.
Bro, as you're talking here, I'm watching more and more money come in on your Pittsburgh Steelers here, down to -1.5, -1. Is part of that money coming from you, my friend? Are you backing your Steelers here at home as a dog?
Well, Mike Tomlin and the Steelers at home dog are money, right? We know that. They are also a team that in the last 3 weeks have scored 10, 17, and 13 points offensively. It is not just about George Pickens. It's about their long-standing inability in short yardage situation and in the red zone to convert. And that is their fatal flaw. We talked about it when they were 10-3. It was looking good after they beat Cincinnati 44-38. But it has fallen apart since. They need to find a way back to converting. Now, the Bengals defense is a pretty soft landing, and I think a lot of people are expecting big points in this one like there were in the last game, but I'd imagine the Steelers try to take the air out of the ball in this one. I think they play a close game. I have to bet on my Steelers here. And I know that Cincinnati is going to be a dogfight like they were in the last game. The Steelers had opportunities to put the Bengals away the last time they played, and they really didn't until the very end of the game. But I'm going to go with the Steelers here as a home dog. If the offensive problems aren't fixed, you'll know by halftime that their season is done.
The Steelers won 6 of their first 7 with Russell Wilson. Won their 6 of their first 7 with Russell Wilson under center, but we all knew the back half of this schedule for the Steelers is where it got really difficult. Pittsburgh enters the regular season finale losing 3 straight. Pittsburgh needs to win even if Baltimore wins before them tomorrow and claims the AFC North to be the 5 seed. That is ultra important since he needs to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. Now let's get to Sunday and some other games around the NFL. The Giants kind of idiotically beat the Colts last week. Still want to win football games. We understand that. Guys are professionals. But because of it, New York no longer controls the destiny of the number 1 overall pick. The Giants still in the running, but it looks unlikely. The Eagles have locked up the 2 seed. Would we see a chase for history out of Saquon Barkley on Sunday? We heard earlier this week that will not be the case. The starters resting for Philadelphia, and yet, Blewitt, the Birds remain a full field goal favorite at home against the G-Man. How do you see the game playing out?
It's an interesting one. Likely to get Tanner McKee under center after Kenny Pickett was hurt in relief of Jalen Hurts the other day. He took a pretty nasty shot, did Pickett. I am not as down on the Giants for winning that game. Joe and I watched every second of it. That was more Colts failure than Giants victory, and Locke actually had a historic game. Giants fans, I get why they're fired up, but there's no guarantee that Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward are going to fix your problems. There are many other problems with the roster, and if they really need one of those quarterbacks and fall in love with them, they can trade up and make it the player of the future. But As far as this game is concerned, I think the reason it stays this way is because of the style in which Philly plays. They can run the ball regardless of who's back there. It'll be a lot of Kenneth Gainwell, and I think he would have the ability to have a pretty big game if there's Gainwell props that get released at some point. So I understand why this is a tight spread. That's definitely the best game that the Giants played all season was the other day, and I don't know that a team like that has it in them to go back to back. But I still feel uncomfortable with Philly laying the 3. I think because it's a flat 3, if you get it to 3.5, I probably end up taking the Giants, but wouldn't be surprised if Philly escapes with a field goal victory playing a lot of reserves.
And as it stands right now, Blue, we look at one other game in New England. Sorry, Joe. The Patriots at home hosting the Buffalo Bills. We expect to see Josh Allen early on Sunday to preserve his 114 consecutive start streak, but that might be it. If the Patriots lose, that's it. New England claims the number 1 overall pick. What's the best bet in Foxborough?
I would not bet on the Patriots at all right now. Too many rumors about the coach being gone. I think you have to be done with it. The Bills had nothing to play for a couple of years ago when Miami did, and they put a 50 on them. It's that kind of team.
Yeah, listen, I think Buffalo probably is the right side still in New England. More on this Football Friday next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes, the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Live right here on the early line, we continue to break down every single angle with all the stakes of week number 18. Mike Blewitt here for a 3rd consecutive segment. Now, Blue, this is a really intriguing game in my estimation in Tennessee. Not because of its significance or implications. Nothing truly is at stake. Houston is locked into the 4 seed, but trying to play better football, I guess you could say, entering the postseason. The Titans could be the 1 seed if the Patriots lose at home to the Bills, and Tennessee also loses that football game. A lot of teams that are looking to lose, but Tennessee is a slight favorite. D'Amico Ryans this week, though, of course, head coach of the Texans, said everybody will be prepared to play. because the Texans, despite winning the AFC South for a second consecutive year, I don't think you could call it, Blue, the best brand of football we have seen Houston or C.J. Stroud play in the last 2 seasons. So knowing DeMeco Ryans is saying everybody might be out there, should the Texans be catching 1.5 points or any bit of sense on that money line?
Well, I think everything you said is right, and it would make some sense if they went out there for a half and tried to get the offense on the same page, because the offense hasn't scored a point in a couple of weeks, right? They got shut out on Christmas, and it's just a bad scene for them right now, generally. But I don't also believe DeMeco Ryans when he says that. I think he'll rest guys as he feels the need to, and I would not expect any of those guys to play the full game. But we'll have to see as the game goes. That being said, I pinch hit for you last week, Ben, in your pick 6, and my money line underdog was the Titans, and they couldn't get it done. Joe and I have watched this team all year, and you can pick different teams at different points of the year at who's worse than who, and the Giants have looked the worst. Tennessee consistently plays really bad football. Constant penalties, doesn't convert first downs, really bad on third down. I just don't. They're not a team that I can bet on, whether they're getting 1.5 points, laying 1.5 points. I think the Texans just overall can do enough defensively to limit the Titans. This could be a super low scoring game. I'm talking like a 13-10 type of game. So I'm taking the under, and I would not bet on the Titans here.
The funny part is no team has ever lost 14 or more games against the spread in a single season.
Guess go
what? Titans. Yeah, they go Titans. 2-14 this year. That could be absolutely historic, Titans. That's what you're looking for there. All right, let's go big picture here, Blewitt. As far as if I keep hearing this, we know that the Bills and Josh Allen, he's going to start the game. He's going to keep that Iron Man streak going. But what are we thinking here for MVP? Has he done enough? The market at minus 350 certainly seems to think so. But I am amazed at the amount of people running to take Lamar Jackson at this plus 230. What are you thinking?
You can make a case for Lamar, a really good one. Obviously, having a better year this year statistically than he was last year, certainly in terms of efficiency. But that's not what this is about at this stage. A story has been told. I think the hay is in the barn on this one. And I don't think that trying to take Lamar, I think taking Lamar at plus 230 right now is interesting in discussion, but I think it's a waste. I think Allen already has the MVP. They're going to be 13-3, maybe 14-3, a better record than Baltimore. And I think that's what it's about. It's not about who's the best player and who was statistically. It's combining that with the story that's been told. And it's that the Bills were not expected to be this good this year. And Allen has been awesome. He's put up historic rushing touchdown numbers and everything else.
Yeah, absolutely so, Blue. Josh Allen has not thrown for 4,800 yards and 45 touchdowns, perhaps, but he has also made history with his individual performances and where Buffalo has been this season. Quickly, final 40 seconds of this segment. The Super Bowl 59 odds entering week number 18. Is there a bet or a team that you would wager on entering the regular season finales?
I think Chiefs-Packers was my preseason call. I've obviously lost some faith in the Packers. I profess my respect for the Vikings. So I think the Vikings at 8-1 are an interesting shot. The way they play on both sides of the ball, how well coached they are, is an interesting little bit of a long shot. But don't count out the Bills this year. I think they have a real shot to knock off the Chiefs.
We'll see if that is to be the case. Mike Blewitt, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you on Sunday. Hour 3 up next. You basically predicted this. saying that if Texas, as expected, as nearly a 2-touchdown favorite, did beat Clemson, the odds were telling you they were only 10 cents behind Oregon entering the opening round.
I still feel that Oregon's one of the best teams in the country. You want to give me now from plus 350 to plus 480? I think it's great value. I think they match up very well against Ohio State.
College football today, only on SportsGrid.